Have you ever had everything you've ever worked for pulled out from under you all at the same time? I have, and it might just be the best thing to ever happen to me. Hopefully my story can remind you that despite all the challenges you face, your dream life might be just around the corner. Let's rewind back to 2024. Everything felt perfect. Not in the world, not by any means, but at least in my little bubble it was. I was working my dream job at the corporate office of the country's largest book retailer. I'd worked my way up from being a bookseller using my creativity to land my dream role in a corporate job, where I acted as a liaison between indie authors and the company. It was very fulfilling and very creative work. At the same time, my fiance and I had been engaged for several months by this point, and we just moved out of an apartment with 4 other roommates into a space that was finally just for us. And for the first time ever in my life, I thought, things are going to be okay. In hindsight, though, I was living someone else's life, and the comfort I was riding on, well, it was really just complacency. And that made it quite difficult to recognize the warning signs bubbling under the surface. Here's the thing. I never really wanted to settle in New York City. I've never really vibed with the city. The culture never felt right. The public transit made me feel trapped. And for some reason, I've always just had difficulty connecting with people here on an emotional and spiritual level. I moved back here for my fiance under the mutual understanding that we'd leave as soon as he graduated with his master's degree. But after he did graduate, I landed my cushy corporate job. And then we moved the goalpost to after he got his next license. I didn't want to admit it, but my brain was starting to shut down. I was dissociating from a life that, though perfect on the surface, deep down I didn't actually want. And trust me, I love my partner more than anything, and I loved my job too. But staying in New York meant giving up on a community that I felt connected to, on an environment that I felt nurtured by, and on the adventure that I so desperately crave. I didn't even recognize the deep sadness that was welling up inside of me, but my partner did. He saw it and took on those emotions as well, despite neither of us knowing where they came from. We both began pulling away from each other, and eventually we broke off our engagement. It was really hard, because I love him so very much. Whew, sorry. But love isn't everything. We're not... Sorry. But love isn't everything. We're not all meant to walk the same path. And that's okay. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time to recover because about a week later, I was unexpectedly laid off, along with several others in my department. This one really stung because I did everything I was supposed to, and more. I worked my way up from retail to get here. Even worse, this came right after I'd been running our division for 5 to 6 months while my boss was on maternity leave. But even though it felt like my world was crashing down around me, because it was, against all odds, my heart started whispering, "This is just the beginning." I started getting sign after sign after sign about where I was meant to go. And oof, do I wish I had listened after the first one, instead of waiting for the last. Oops, that one is on me. So the week post-breakup, but pre-layoff, I booked a cruise to Mexico. I'd never had a solo vacation before, and I really wanted to see where my family's from since I don't really know much about our culture. Bonus, I'd get to spend a little time in LA, a city I've always loved for reasons I couldn't really explain. But every time I went, it was like a magnet pulling me home to a place I've never lived. Every night on the cruise, there was a queer hangout on the itinerary. I met a bunch of gays from LA and San Fran, and we clicked, like, instantly. They were all so warm, so open and welcoming, and we just vibed. In contrast, there were a few other gays from NYC on the cruise too, and it was exactly like talking to the gays back home. Cold, rigid, difficult. Not to be a slight on them, it's just the energy they were giving, and that's when I realized I wasn't imagining things. These two cities and the people who live here have completely different and opposing vibes. I never felt like I belonged, because I don't. This place just isn't for me. After that, I dove into astrocartography. Astrocartography is the practice of overlaying your star chart over a globe to reveal positive and negative aspects you might experience while living in a specific area. It confirmed exactly what I was feeling. I'm astrologically shaped for the West Coast, not the East Coast. Unfortunately, this still wasn't enough to move me, partially because my fiance and I are still living together, and I wasn't sure I was ready to leave him just yet. Even post-breakup, he's still my best friend. But months later, I was finding myself still stuck, and with our lease quickly coming to an end, I threw my hands up and said, fine, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go to a psychic and see what happens. And I kid you not, when I got there, without me saying anything, she asked, "Are you planning to move to LA?" Excuse me, ma'am? Obviously, I was very shocked, but when I said, well, I want to, but I haven't planned it yet, she told me, that's where you need to be. If you stay here, your energy will remain stagnant. Okay, well, I feel like at that point there was not a clearer sign the universe could have banged over my head, so that lit a fire under me, that and my lease ending soon. But from there, I committed to the move, and everything just kind of fell into place. I found a car, an apartment, a job, all within weeks. I took the leap, and the powers that be caught me like a frickin' ballerina. If I didn't have faith in something before, I certainly do now, though the specifics of what that might be are still a little murky. But I wouldn't have been able to take this step without everything crashing down first, and despite the heartbreak that I am still processing, I'm so grateful the crash came when it did. I'm finally doing the work to understand who I am, and I hope the lessons I learned on this adventure help you on your journey as well. So, the decision is made. I'm moving to LA in just a few weeks. So subscribe and stay tuned, because the next step, driving 3,000 miles across the country in a 20-year-old car. Whew. Wish me luck, babes. Till next time. Bye.